Hi, my name is Israel Vasquetelle, and welcome to The Turntable, a roundtable discussion featuring entertainment and music business students, artists, and anyone with a vested interest in the music industry. And today we have some amazing guests. Starting on my left, I want to introduce a killer frontman by the name of Angel Graves from a band by the name of
Devil's Envy.
Now that's a killer name. And we also have somebody that I respect a lot. She is a music industry veteran with plenty of experience both in the live space, also in music retail and marketing. Shellie O, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And we have a multifaceted guest over here, Alex Knight. And Alex is an educator, he's a musician, and he's also the producer of a web series about the music industry.
Yep.
And it's called?
The Lost Weekend.
The Lost Weekend. Awesome. So I would love to get everybody's perspective on different aspects of our topic this episode, and that is awareness, building awareness. So let's go ahead and start with streaming.
I mean, it's been around for a bit. A lot of the bigger artists that I look up to, Metallica, Avenged Sevenfold, they have a very detailed structure of how they want to go about streaming their music. Apps like Spotify and Apple Music have a really good captivation mode on it, to whether, sending notifications out to let your fans know, as well as people that might like it, in the similar genre.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about Devil's Envy. I know you guys have been on some playlists.
Right.
Talk to me about how you have put that together, and also have you found that's kind of brought you new fans?
It has. We try to go the professional route, getting a good a PR agent to, help push us in certain areas that maybe we didn't think of. They were great about, pitching us to certain playlists, whether it was on Apple Music. I believe Spotify does playlists as well. Tidal does as well, too. And they're more based in, France. But, putting us in front of different listeners that might love a certain band, it's you know what, this band is on this playlist, I'm just going to follow that. And they were really good at putting us, in the mix with everyone else. And we got, listeners from all over the world. It was really good that way. But just at least to put you on with different artists that you've never even heard of. And then, you learn from them, too.
Indeed. And that's mostly been on Spotify?
Yeah, correct.
Okay,
yeah.
Awesome. So what do you folks think?
That seems to kind of be at least in my experience, has been sort of the new holy grail, is getting featured on certain playlists, You were telling that story. Israel told a story to us earlier about a guy bursting into the radio station with weapons. It reminded me of the movie Airheads. You remember that movie, Airheads, with Brendan Fraser? And I was like, nowadays, that's you'd burst into trying to get on a Spotify playlist. You're not going to lock down a radio station, So it's kind of a different experience. But that, recommendations from, oddly enough, algorithms is kind of how I find artists now, The other thing I found is I know a lot of people, I was just talking with someone else about this, about listening to podcasts and interviews. And I found myself finding artists that I'll hear them in an interview first, and if I think they're interesting people, I'll go check out their music, and now I'm more connected to the music in that way. So
right,
yeah.
And I mean, from the indie hip hop space, and that's kind of my world, for many years, I would say that it's kind of interesting that platforms like SoundCloud, those that aren't necessarily subscription-based, AudioMac is still preferred for those people looking for the hottest, newest kind of breaking artists, maybe before they get on Spotify, before they get on a list.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, my whole world is obviously physical retail, so streaming is a 4-letter word, but people will listen to a couple tracks and be like, all right, I've got to have this on vinyl now because my friends are all coming over this weekend and this will be a great album we can all check out together. And
one of my favorite stories in that space has to do with Rage Against the Machine and going to see them open for a band, actually not going to see them, going to see a band they were opening for, and feeling kind of irritated when I found out that there was another opening act, and be like, oh, I hope that they're not going to take too long. And sure enough, it was Rage Against the Machine. Had never heard of them. They killed it, and I was an immediate fan. Went out and bought the CD. and the rest is history. So what do you folks think about that live environment for discovery? Not going to see somebody that you already know about, but discovering new talent. What do you think?
I look at like the streaming world as almost like the baited hook that you're dangling, but you've got to hook up. I mean, live performances is still where you hook people. If you're really going to translate someone into like a true long-term engaged fan, you've got to kill it live, or the physical product has to be worth them actually buying, because there's just so much you have to cut through in the streaming world that it's a very passive medium. You could just like, oh, that was cool, I like that. You could skip it and you'll never think of it again. But like if someone blows you away live, you've got them. They're in your world now.
And you never forget that. You never
Right.
forget that live experience.
Yeah, you're still talking about the Rage
Yeah,
thing. So
there you go.
yeah.
I mean, there are records that I've listened to, new stuff, and from artists that I really love, and I'm like, oh, no, it's decent. But then when I see it live, I'm like, oh, I totally get it now.
Back like 3 years ago, I was running front of house engineering for a band called From Ashes to New, and they were put on tour, just thrown on tour with like the big dogs, with Papa Roach and Five Finger. The frontman Matt, he was so passionate about it. He's like, we have to kill it live. If we want the majority of these fans to stick with us, that we have to, make sure we knock it out of the park. And that's always a great goal to have if you're a startup artist.
Yeah, that's a great point. I always remember, and I'm drawing a blank on exactly who it was once, but I remember putting on a show in a little venue and it not necessarily being well attended, and the artists just killed it. They just brought their A game, and afterwards we were talking, and he basically shared that kind of philosophy. Like, I don't care if it's 5 people or if it's 100 people or 1,000 people, I have the same energy because I never know who's in that audience, and I always remember that.
One of the great things about Park Ave CDs is we host live in-store performances with artists, and some of those are developing artists. I mean, we've definitely had the 1975 and Machine Gun Kelly, and we've had a few people that have rolled through too, but I just was in touch with someone who I'd worked with on a previous in-store. He had recommended a band that he had coming through town. I mean, when they started, there were 0 people there to see them, but by the end of their half-hour set, we probably, any person that had walked in the store that night just to randomly shop had their hands up in the air at the last song. Their last song, they played a song called Partying with Strangers. And I think that kind of brought everybody, they kind of got the vibe,
Right.
And yeah, by the end of it, like, everyone was super psyched. We sold more records than we thought we would. Wow. And honestly, like, I've had those songs stuck in my head for the last 2 weeks. And there was no like, oh, should we wait a little bit? Should we wait for more people? It was just like, we're ready to do this. We are ready to put on a great show. And you know what? They did, and it really translated.
How many of us are fans of going to a record store and just kind of touching and feeling all that? Awesome. So we're all on the same page. I'm always worried, but obviously vinyl has consistently grown over the past 10 or plus years, and you've been, ground zero for that. So have you noticed a lot of people, and I would imagine that's a thing, like you go in, you're looking for this specific artist, but you discover so much more while you're there, and what do you see in that space?
No, it's true. Mm-hmm. I mean, my gosh, I helped a girl one day at the store, and she was like, I can't believe you guys have all these calendars. And I was like, oh, honey. Oh, no. Let me show you. Let me show you the world here. But yeah, I think people think, we definitely have so many SKUs. We're, one of the only full service stores in Central Florida, so we carry tons of catalog on top of new releases and exclusive things like that. But yeah, I think people think they're gonna pop in and just flip through a couple records, and then they walk in and they're just like, oh, wow, there's everything. There's so much.
When you've committed to buying like a physical product, you're kind of like, I'm going to listen to this enough to give it a chance and let it grow on you. And I remember very vividly, there was a Blur record when I was a kid. And when I first heard it, I bought it because I bought it for the radio hit, and I listened to it and I was like, what is the rest of this? This is all like electronic and weird, and they're all experimental, and I wasn't into it. But I bought it. I spent my hard-earned money on it, so I just kept listening. Turned out to be one of my favorite records. But nowadays, I would have gone right past it and been over it. But, you know, now it's a record that I think of that, like, changed the way that I look at music and listen to music. So, you know, I think there's some value to like, sticking with it and really experiencing what the artist wanted you to experience.
Right. The entire piece of art.
Yeah, instead of, like,
Yes.
here's a 15-second marketing clip, you know, like, how connected can you really get to that? So
If you think about it, you know, the fact that there's some artists that have these, in many ways, almost irresistible images that, you know, people are wearing, and they don't know what Dark Side of the Moon is. They just know, I've seen that 100 times, and maybe that brings them onto Spotify next time that they're like, oh, what? I know I've seen it. Maybe I have it. Who is this guy Eddie that I see on all these records looking so evil? Like, what do they sound like? So let's talk a little bit about the obvious. Let's talk about social media.
Before, we tried so hard through word of mouth, just like going downtown, passing out flyers, come to our show. And even then, you know, we had a good response, you know, as far as like bringing an audience into our shows. But social media has like opened the floodgates. Back in 2013, I was performing in this band called Stiletto Red. And thanks to social media, we've had people fly out from the UK to come see us perform at House of Blues. It was our first show as a band, but we had like this killer video out, you know, like with social media, Facebook, friends of friends of friends sharing, and you never know who, you know, come across it. But yeah, social media has definitely opened a lot more doors than what we had, 20 years ago.
Indeed. And in many ways, I think it's kind of like word of mouth, because you see something you really like and you share it, and your friends see that, and maybe they've never heard of the band, and now they know about them and give them a shot.
like filters in people's stories and stuff. You know, I know that sometimes if a friend of mine throws something up like that way, you know, like that'll get me to check them out if I hadn't before, or just kind of puts it back on your mind again. So yeah, very similar to word of mouth.
Anybody see the Fire documentaries?
Oh, I
Haven't
watched
seen it yet,
both.
no.
Yeah,
Oh, you
I mean
did?
that was
I watched
brilliant,
both.
right? I mean the social media that they did with Instagram and the what was it,
It's
like
scary.
a bright orange? Yeah,
that bright orange tile.
it was
and
effective.
It'll stick with you.
It was just a
it
color.
motivated people to spend tons of money
Yeah.
on absolutely
Nothing.
nothing.
Wow. Well, that was the sun when they got there. The sun was there. The other stuff might have not been there, but
Right.
the glow was
sun-
there.
Yeah, we promised you a
I
sun.
swear, I think next time I watch it, we're going to have a drinking game, and anytime someone says influencer, I'm
Oh
going
my
to take
gosh.
a shot.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
That was the one.
Be drunk in 5 minutes.
Well, but doesn't that kind of reinforce what we've been saying, which is like that's how you lure people in, but you've got to have something tangible to
Yeah,
back
you've
it
gotta
up.
have a
or like-
product.
yeah, a product is nice, or a good live experience, you know. And if you don't, then what good are all the how many impressions you get and everything? Because people their attention spans are like this now, so you've got to lock in somehow.
And the reality is that if you burn people there, then the negativity will spread just as fast.
Yeah.
So that's the other
And then it
piece of
becomes cool to hate on you, and then
Yeah,
you're
there you go.
buried, you know.
That is definitely true. You don't want to be a meme.
No.
So, and anything else in the social space? I mean, when you're promoting, are you using live a lot on Instagram, IGTV?
Well, we don't use live too much. IGTV, it's that came up a few months ago, didn't it?
It's been almost a year.
Yeah. Well, we do a couple of things on there. Not so much live. We just do the regular posting. You know, keep a schedule. We have a whole week planned out. You know, end of the week, and I have to sit and plan out everything. What time each post going up.
Got it.
Now we take advantage of ads. We reach people that that would rather sit home, and now you have to kind of get people. If you want them to come out to a show, you go through ads. You have to give them a reason to get off their couch and decide your show over Netflix.
Yeah, it's
or
hard.
like, do I really want to go to this party, or
Yeah.
do I just want to watch?
'Cause you got to drive somewhere and pay for parking and pay for drinks and all that stuff. And you're right.
Yeah,
you could sit on your couch and watch anything in the world.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. But I do think live, depending on how well the feed is, you could also introduce that to people that can't leave their home. They could be bedridden, or they have a disability where they can't leave. Live has definitely helped, with bringing that to them. Hopefully we'll have the production value where we can bring a good show to people sitting at home.
have you been affected by an ad and actually clicked and discovered something that has made sense, that's connected?
I'll be honest, for me, it doesn't work with music that much. I don't know why. I think it's because I think I want to get my music from something either I discover on my own or that someone has recommended to me or something along those lines.
Right.
And probably I'm a victim of the short attention span too. I'm like, I'm not going to listen to this little clip. I've got scrolling to do,
So, out of curiosity, when you're placing ads, are you, and obviously you could identify who you want to see the ads, you could target it. Are you using your audience that has already liked your page to be part of the folks that actually see those ads? Or are you going beyond that? Because we know that they don't all see those ads.
Right. Well, it depends on what I'm posting.
Oh, those posts, excuse me.
Yeah, like, so if I want to run, it depends on, you just have to do your homework, do your research on it. You don't want to just dump your money in and just blindly throw ads out there. For stuff that, that could relate more to our fans already, then we'll just limit it to just them and maybe their friends. Something new, like, hey, you want to check out our page, and we'll have like a cool video clip or something, and then target new people in different cities and whatnot. But yeah, you definitely want to, just really hone in on like what your listeners are doing. Spotify has a great feature for that. You can see where people are listening, and then you can use that information to run your ads as well.
So let's talk about something that seems so 2010-ish. Websites. Websites, blogs, et cetera, et cetera. I was thinking about the Tiny Desk concert series, and I've discovered artists that I've never heard of, and I'm on the NPR blog, and it's like, wow, who's this? And next you're like, wow, that's a pretty cool group. Do you find that effective for discovery, either an online magazine, a blog, a specific website?
One of the interview questions when we interview new hires at Park Ave, spoiler alert, but I always ask people, how they discover new music, and it comes back to like Pitchfork or an online blog, or then of course like Friends and that kind of thing.
Right.
But yeah, I look on Pitchfork. I mean, I take it with a grain of salt, of course. Right. Yeah. But things like that I think are definitely really helpful.
Yeah, it is kind of the same thing for me. There's the handful of the industry standards that I just check from time to time. I do a lot of when I'm in the mood to look for music, I go through Spotify usually, and if a friend of a friend is listening to it or something, I'll check it out. But yeah, like you said, take it with a grain of salt, because I don't know. I think I've been trained by the internet to be skeptical of everything. So I'm like, even if it seems like a legit article, I'm like, who paid for this? How much did they pay to tell me to like this band? So
right.
Like, I'm just like, oh, I'll see, but yeah, it's there for sure.
Any other platforms online? I know someone mentioned, one of our producers that put together this particular topic said Reddit, places like Twitch.
Right. I think the thing about that makes it maybe a little more sort of reliable is that you get to see the actual conversation around the band, So that helps me.
You can see if it's organic. Like, this is the hottest thing ever.
Right.
You have to,
right. yeah. And you can kind of read through what people are really saying about it or why they like it, and that helps me make a decision at least. Right. Yeah.
So you shared that you have a single that's getting some traction on radio. Congratulations. Thank you. Let's talk about radio. Let's talk about traditional radio, not the Pandoras. What do you folks think as far as discovery?
Well, radio is definitely important because, you reach your blue collar worker, your regular day job individuals that can afford to pay for satellite radio, or even just even have a car and drive. People prefer to listen to FM radio just as in the background, and a tune might come up and you're like, oh wait, turn it up. I've discovered artists that way. I still listen to FM radio. Yeah.
I listen to terrestrial radio.
Oh yeah.
I do. Yeah. Every once in a while, just to see like what's current. We were an independent record store, and so everyone expects us to have the Maggie Rogers and the Animal Collectives, but I still want to hear that like Lovely the Band is getting played on XL 25 times a day, and like that might be something that we pass over in our buying, but it's out there and it's getting lots of impressions and people are looking for that stuff.
That being said, I think the one type of radio that many times gets overlooked is college radio. So what do you folks think about that? Have you tapped a college radio and that kind of those kind of outlets?
We have in the past. It was a little difficult to get into, being a little heavier band. They're a little more strict, I guess, the program directors for college. But yes, they have a specific time when the station is actually running, and before and after it is usually dead, or, just static, or they have something else going on. But if you want to hear a specific rock segment, it's only, from 1 to 4 maybe, or 1 to 8, then you know that they're only going to play rock music then and there.
I know the band that I was in, college radio, was pretty friendly to us, and it was really helpful for tours when we were first just trying to get some people to come to shows, because the people that heard us on their college radio station would want to come out and meet us and talk to us, and then we had friends. So the next time we came to the city, it's like they come and they bring a couple of their friends, and so it's a nice way to get a diehard fan that's actually going to come see you and take an interest in you and spread the word for you. So, it's kind of like weaponizing these little pockets of people in every city.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Indeed. So let's go around real quick before we wrap up. And I'd love to get just a tidbit from everybody on the table. So who wants to start? I'll start. Okay, I'll start. And maybe this is the most obvious. Get in front of an audience as much as possible in the live space, once again, because that's the space that people will never forget. They'll forget a viral video, but they won't forget how someone made them feel in that live environment.
I think, to me, the most important thing, it goes hand in hand with that, but it's really know your specific audience, because we're so fractured right now that you should really know your world backwards and forwards and make an effort to go those routes instead of just being I need to get on the radio, I need to get on college radio. Well, why? Ask yourself the why, and then go that method, and then be able to back it up with the killer live show.
Just piggybacking off of what you mentioned, of just going viral, that is definitely true. You get a viral video, it could have millions of views the first week or even in the first 3 days, but then after 6 months, no one's remembering, they'll maybe 1 or 2 will go back. But at first, initially, when social media started growing, that was our goal. We got to be viral. We got to be this viral band. And then a couple of mentors of mine that are, have been in the business, old school days, they're like, no, dude, you bring them in your live show, they'll never forget that,
Well, I'd say coming from record stores, don't forget physical media and physical spaces. And going back to the Vagabonds, that was the very first time that they had played in store anywhere. And right, the response, it wasn't a packed house, but just in that half hour, they covered some serious ground. And so they were like, you know what, this is the first time we've ever done this, but we want to do more. Can you connect us with other stores? Can you connect us with other friends? And then I'm like, totally, I can give you 30 of the top independent record stores in the country. You should play this store, you should play this store, you should play this store. And now the minute the band announces a tour date in Orlando, I get a million messages, a million phone calls. Fans are like, are they going to play Park Ave? I'm like, oh, Frank Turner's played Park Ave 4 times now. I really feel bad asking him, but.
So on that note, we will see you in your local friendly neighborhood record store. But before that, we're going to have a live performance from this gentleman right here and his band, Devil's Envy. Check this out.
Hiding behind the mask, but who is the man behind? Deep in the mirror, I don't recognize this thing I see. Is it a mask or am I finally really me? I'm not your alter ego. Without me, there's no hero. A lifetime hiding behind the mask, but who is the but who is the man behind? Am I real? Do I matter? Realize without me there's no hope. How can they call me villain? Some people just need killing. You're not! You're all deranged! I'm not! No! 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 A lifetime hiding behind the mask, but who is the man behind? Am I real? Do I matter? Or is this all in my mind? Right! Right! I'm not your alter ego! Right! Right! Without me, you'll be nothing! Go ahead and call me crazy! No, no!